Hey yo, what it do, everybody? It is your boy Who Dad Davis here for you. And as always, if you guys don't know, you will know that over here we bleed black and gold until we are dead, 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 and cold. Thank you guys for very much for joining me for this edition of the BNG Breakdown Podcast. See, your boy finally got right. He got lined up, got laced up, got trimmed up nicely today at my own personal Rayborn's hair center a couple hours ago, early this morning. Decided to get that out of the way. And that's where one of many good news I have to share for you guys. And more news on the Saints front, right? Because you guys see the title. The Saints have made a major headlining news today in terms of a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. All that coming up on this edition of B&G Podcast. The Saints haven't been doing much on the front of making headline news, making splash news, and we just resigned ourselves to thinking that the Saints just weren't going to do anything because they weren't in a position to do anything. They've made a couple of potential looks here, a couple of looks there. They've made a couple of re-signings like PJ Williams. They made a signing of Contavious Street. The biggest one they've made prior to today is I would say Marcus May, one of the top, I would say, free agent safety that they signed to replace the loss of Marcus. And now they have the final means to replace Malcolm Jenkins, which we assume will be PJ Williams. Well, they also made some other news today. We'll get into all that in a second. But I do have to this by saying this will be a short stream. As you can see, my eyes are shot red because I am absolutely tired. It has been a exhausting day for your boy. We're going out here, getting haircuts here, driving here. Just having a car has been very taxing. I'm learning very quickly. So I apologize if this is going to be a very short stream. I just want to get this main news out there for you guys because you deserve it. I want to get the best content out there, keep you guys informed of what's happening with all the new Orleans Saints, and keep the channel going with fresh and new content as often as physically possible. So what do I have to share with you guys? As I have said, read that title. The Saints have made a trade today with the Philadelphia Eagles. The New Orleans Saints have made a blockbuster trade for the following picks: the number 16 overall, the number 19 overall, and the number 164th overall pick for the 2022 NFL Draft. Yes, sir, you heard me right. The Saints have made a huge trade today. The 16th overall pick in round one, the 19th overall, and the 6th overall, and the 194th, which is a 6th round pick. They have 2 first-round picks for 2022. That's mad crazy. Now, the question is, what did the Saints give up to get these 2 first-round picks, and is it considered like equal value? Well, I'll let you guys be the judge of that, but let's talk about what the Saints have traded away to get these 2 first and a 6th round pick for the Eagles. They have traded away the 18th overall, obviously. Traded away one of their compensatory 3rd round picks, which is the 101st overall pick. They could away the 7th round pick, the 231st overall. They get away a 2023 first round pick. So they're giving away a first round pick for next year and a 2nd round pick in 2024. I'll read that again for everybody who is still tuning in. The Saints have traded with the Philadelphia Eagles. They have received the 16th, 19th, and the 194th overall picks for the 2022 draft this year. So the Saints have 2 spots that they're choosing from. They're choosing from number 16 and number 19. Those are 2 premium spots for them to get whatever they want to get in the first round. But they also have traded away their 18th overall pick, the 101st overall pick, their 7th round pick, which is their 231st overall. They traded away their 1st round pick for next year and their 2nd round pick in 2024. Is that considered equal value? I will say yes, it is absolutely equal value when it comes to these teams. They both made a fairly even trade for the most part. And I'll tell you why. The New Orleans Saints still have a roster ready to win right now. They still have a top 10 defense coming back this year, re-signed with re-signings of Shy Tuttle, PJ Williams. They've also added some additional signings today, mainly in pertains to their defensive line. We saw what happened last season when the Saints D line couldn't get anything going in terms of quality depth, and they couldn't get any pass rush without David Onyemata being present. One of the things I've always hammered about with the Saints D line is that uh, they have missed Sheldon Rankins when it comes to the stunt game in the middle. Now they still have Tanner Passing coming back this year. He can play both inside and outside. So the versatility is good. You still have your first round pick from last year coming back, which is Peyton Turner. We'll still have to see what his ceiling is like. You still have Marcus Davenport who can do inside and outside. They've done some NASCAR packages with him and Cam Jordan being lined up next to each other. But who else have they really signed? They've Jaleel Johnson. They've signed they have signed, like I said, they have signed Jaleel Johnson. They have signed Contavious Street. If you guys don't know who Contavious Street is, he is the guy that injured his ribs back in the 2020 regular season. That is who Contavious Street is. They signed Jaleel Johnson and Contavious Street. They've also signed Taco Charlton. Yes, former Steelers player Taco Charlton is with the New Orleans Saints. He is signing on a 1-year deal. The Saints are beefing up their defensive line and getting bodies in the building to get ready for training camp. We don't know what Taco Charlton is going to be like. We don't know what Jaleel Johnson is going to be like. These could very well be just practice squad guys, just guys who just have on your roster just in case. But it's still good to see that the Saints aren't just sitting here waiting for, counting their days, licking their chops, right? They're actually out here making moves. Now, let's talk about these draft picks a little bit more in a bit. But I want to say this is equal value for the New Orleans Saints because they're, like I said, not only are they in a position to win right now, they are also just a couple pieces away on offense to really just hammer out a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Jameis Winston was under center for 7 games, and he went 5-2, and that is impressive considering the lack of offensive talent and talent/supporting cast he had to deal with for 2021. And it's bad when you have Marquez Callaway outdoing Traquan Smith, who I still want away from this roster. The Saints need help, and they need it in a bad. They see what happens when Michael Thomas is not in a lineup. They can't get any separation whatsoever. They can't have that again. It is no longer time for the New Orleans Saints to rely on undrafted free agent prospects who center themselves around Michael Thomas. You actually need play in this league. You need star players. The Saints have passed up on several different star-studded receivers because Sean Payton was too scared to bite the bullet. So I don't know why, but so he should have been more confident to pull the trigger, but he didn't. And now I'm glad to see Dennis Allen is looking like he's gonna finally break that curse of not taking a receiver in the first round. I don't think he's gonna pass up how deep and talented this receiving class is. I think he's definitely gonna load up, and it actually plays into the philosophy or the mindset as going into this year's draft. When he was questioned about the state of the wide receiver room, he was still looking to add pieces to the position group. I love that answer. He wants to build through the draft and augment through free agency. I agree with that. I like that. It also works with what Mickey Loomis wants to do, which in terms of being more like financially friendly. I wouldn't say financially friendly is the word. I think he wants to no longer have to worry about shaving 70 plus million cap year in and year out. I think he finally, stop pushing those chips to the forefront of the table every other year at this point. So I'm glad to see they're finally going to get into a position where that's no longer going to happen. They're going to be off the books for Teron Armstead after next year. It's still going to be off the books for Drew Brees. I believe after next year, some numbers are going to come off the books, and they're going to get more cap compliant going into the offseason. Really benefit them long term. So what the Saints need to do right now, the Saints need to hit on this year's draft like they did in 2017. If they hit right now, if they hit that right now in this moment, while they're still getting, financially friendly or cap compliant, so whatever the case may be, and we're not having to constantly shave off 70 plus million of cap money in every offseason. And they continue to build organically. The Saints are in great position with how weak the NFC conference is as a whole. The Saints are going to be absolute dogs. They're going to be absolute dogs. And their defense is only getting better. If they get Quan Alexander back, then they're guaranteed to have a top 5 defense. I will say that right now. If the Saints get Quan Alexander back, they are guaranteed to have a top 5 defense coming back in the building for New Orleans next season, or this season, mind you. There are a few names that come to mind when I look at the 16th and 19th overall picks. You can make a little quick jab about, the Saints getting 2 wide receivers in the first round. That would be pretty funny. I don't think the Saints have ever done that in franchise history. But if you look at the last time the Saints have had 2 first round picks, they've always went an offensive guy and they went a defensive guy. They went Ryan Ramczyk for one guy, and then Marshawn Lattimore with another. That's 2 first round picks right there they've hit on. What about earlier in their tenure, like early 2010, they had Cameron Jordan for a defensive guy and then Mark Ingram for an offensive guy. Two different sides of the ball addressed those 2 separate instances. That was their philosophy. One was spent for an offensive guy, one was spent for a defensive guy, and they've went 2 for 2 so far when they have 2 first round picks and going into a draft for that specific year. And now I don't think that's going to change. I think they're going to go offensive guy and defensive guy. Now, what kind of names can I throw out there for this specific scenario? What could really coincide with what they've done in those, given off what we've seen in recent history? Well, offensive lineman and wide receiver obviously would be the most logical, choice given the pattern and the current position of need. Charles Cross from Texas A&M, he stands out. He's probably the second best offensive lineman in the draft. Trevor, offensive tackle from UNI from Northern Iowa. Trevor Penning is probably the best left tackle in this year's draft class. I think they love what he does with his physicality. He plays with a chip on the shoulder. He's got a mean streak to him. I think having a guy like Trevor Penning or Charles Cross could really shore up your offensive line and make sure Jameis's blind side is well protected. Now, one of those guys, what about a wide receiver? You guys have, if you guys don't remember, I put out a poll a couple of weeks ago asking you, who do you guys want to see we talk about first in terms of position groups? A lot of you guys have chosen wide receiver. Well, here we go. One of the names that stands out, you got, other than me being a David Bell guy, because I am biased. I love David Bell. I've seen him play. I've seen every game he's played in since 2020. I love what he does. All right, it is what it is. Well, what about other than David Bell? He's more than likely a day 2 guy. Well, the name that was thrown out there the most between Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram is Chris Olave from Ohio. And that kind of plays into the fact that the Saints love going to the Ohio State well and picking out some really star-studded talent. Even Jalen Holmes from Ohio State, he had some meaningful snaps with the New Orleans Saints this past year. He was pretty serviceable. They find this magic with Ohio State, and if it's not broken, why try to fix it, right? So Chris Olave is a guy that stands out to me in terms of who could really fit the Saints mold or be an immediate impact. Chris Olave is a smooth route runner. He is able to get separation, actual separation. He ran an unofficial 4.26 in this year's combine in a 40-yard dash. He has the measurables. He loves to run block on the perimeter. He is able to play the inside. He's able to play the slot. He is able to be a great red zone threat. Chris Olave has a full package for the Saints need to help out opposite of Michael Thomas. So I'm very much on board with Chris Olave. I'm not going to say Garrett Wilson because I do believe Garrett Wilson is going to be the first receiver off the board in this year's draft class. I think he's probably the better receiver overall than Chris Olave. And I think he's going to go to either Atlanta or maybe even Cleveland, maybe even Carolina. I wouldn't say Carolina because they got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Terrace Marshall, excuse me. I do believe it's going to be either the Falcons or the Browns that get Garrett Wilson. And I hope it's the Browns because I don't want to deal with Garrett Wilson 2 times a year. All right, that's not good for my health. But I do believe Garrett Wilson is going to be gone before the Saints can before he falls down to the Saints. But if he does fall, you got to take him. You got to take Garrett Wilson if he's there. I would say he's there in this draft class. Period. Undisputed. I would take Garrett Wilson over Chris Olave. But if he doesn't, there's Chris Olave. Who else is there? There's Treylon Burks from Arkansas. Treylon Burks is a physical freak. He's a physical specimen. He reminds me, he looks like a guy that was a hybrid or the love child between AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel. That's how it looked like. That's how I looked at Treylon Burks. He's got the size and the physicality of AJ Brown with the versatility of Deebo Samuel in terms of being able to run those running back plays or run those scripted plays out of the backfield, or those find ways to get in the ball open space, those types of things. I think Treylon Burks will be another great addition. The only thing I have is Treylon Burks not much of a blocker out on the perimeter. The Saints love their run blockers when they're going out on the outside, when they run those fly sweeps or those jet motions out to the outside, get to the sideline, get Kamara, get Deontay Hardy out in space. Those kind of cats. You're one to be reliable out there on the island, on the perimeter to set up those blocks. Treylon Burks still has to improve in that area, but he's still a physical freak well enough to help you in the passing game. So you can coach up can coach up the blocking bit. You can coach that up. So I wouldn't be entirely mad with Treylon Burks. I just hope he really absorbs what he needs to do and not end up being another disappointment like Traquan Smith. What other receivers are out there? There's also a guy that a lot of us are not talking about, even me for that matter, and that's bad. But another receiver we're not talking about is Jahan Dotson from Penn State. Dotson is the best blocking receiver in this draft class. Not to mention, he can also play the slot. He mainly plays the slot for that matter. He can also line up outside. He may not have the speed of Chris Olave. He may not have the speed of Garrett Wilson, but he definitely has the athleticism. He has the acceleration. He has the agility. His route running is crisp as hell. Jahan Dotson can be that deep threat. He can work the middle of the field. He's not afraid to work any level and get his hands physical on a receiver. Jahan Dotson from Penn State will make another instant impact. And if he's not here, I do believe the Bucs are going to take him. I can see Jahan Dotson being taken by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if the Saints choose not to get him. I really do believe that because he is just that good of a receiver. He has that dog mentality in him. And Tom Brady loves dogs. And speaking of dogs, what about day 2? What about the Saints taking a day 2 thing? If they end up going to day 2 without taking a receiver before they get to that point, let's say for sake of argument, right? What other receivers can we as in i.e. the Saints look at potentially drafting in day 2? Because they still have a second round pick. They have 4 picks in the top 100. 4 of them. At least one of those, they have to come with a wide receiver, right? They have to. So, day 2. There's also Wan'Dale Robinson from Kentucky. He's a little on the small side, kind of just not too much taller than Deontay Hardy, but he's got unbelievable speed, quickness. He's got a twitch to him. He get the ball into him in open space, and he makes magic. Right? There is also Romeo Doubs from Nevada. I haven't seen too much tape on Romeo Dubs. I'm still trying to find some tape, actually, but I like what I've seen from Romeo Dubs. I think you can take the chance on Romeo Dubs in the second round if he ends up falling to you. He could also end up slipping into the third or maybe early fourth round. But Romeo Dubs is another guy you guys I recommend checking out. There's also, speaking of dogs, George Pickens from Georgia. George Pickens, there's a major issue I have with George Pickens. I don't believe he's a second round guy. I do believe he's a third round guy though, because George Pickens has an injury history that I'm not too fond of. The Saints already have an injury prone receiver in Traquan Smith, and a hit and miss type of thing with Deontay Hardy. George Pickens has all the physical tools needed to be a great receiver in the NFL. He just has to put it together. He hasn't done that yet at the college level. And the pros are as we all know, is a whole different animal. George Pickens has to show that he can stay healthy. The best ability is availability, as we all know. I need my receivers to be healthy and make sure they maintain their health to help out Jameis Winston. George Pickens is a guy who loves to block. If you guys have watched Georgia, when George Pickens is on the field, he'll put his hands on a guy and drive him 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 yards up the field. That's how violent of a blocker George Pickens is. His route running tree is a little limited, but you can coach that up, right? You can coach up him being able to run different type of routes, but he has vertical speed, right? He definitely has the vertical speed necessary, and he can work the middle of the field. I think he's got some of the best pairs of hands in this year's draft class. Not saying a lot considering how many good hands are in this year's draft pool, right? So George Pickens has to show me that he can be a reliable receiver in terms of staying healthy. I don't care if you're bad to start. You can get good with experience if you really apply yourself. And George Pickens looks like a guy who will really apply himself to be the best version of George Pickens he can be. But I do not trust the fact that he can stay healthy for a full season. Not yet. He hasn't proven it to me yet. I hope he proves me wrong if the Saints decide that he's worth the risk. But like I said, I don't think round 2 pick. I definitely believe he'll slip into round 3, and then you can evaluate if he's going to be worth it. Right? I do believe that. And then there's also my guy, David Bell. I love David Bell. I love everything about David Bell. Now he's on the skinnier side as opposed to other receivers, and his route running is I would say, is a little lazier compared to most, but he's smooth in and out of his breaks. He has the best set of hands I've seen yet in this receiving class. The things he can do with his body, the insane amount of body control that he has with the athletic catches he's made in this past season 2021 is absolutely remarkable. I love David Bell's game as a receiving threat. Right, he can box out guys despite his size. He can be a great red zone threat. I love David Bell. I love him as a prospect. I wouldn't mind him at all coming to the New Orleans Saints. If you guys don't know who David Bell is, he's one of the best receivers in the Big Ten. He's one of the best receivers in the Big Ten, bar none. The only ones who can ride for him are Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's not even in the receiving class this year. Smith-Njigba is going to most likely be there next year, maybe year after. We'll see. But other than those three, I definitely believe it's going to be David Bell, who top 5 receiver coming out of the Big Ten conference for real. I love David Bell. But Charles Cross from Texas A&M, I have to talk about him just a little bit more. He's more of a guy that can play inside, but you can kick outside if need be. So if that is the case, if they do decide to go Charles Cross, would you rather him play at the left tackle spot, or do you want to kick out Andrews P and put him at his, I would say, more natural position as left guard? Because we all know that Andrews P can play both positions. He played outside to start, then they drafted Terron Armstead, and they kicked him inside, as a left guard. He's done areas, but you can certainly do worse. You still have some depth with James Hurst, Jordan Mills. You still can call up Nick Easton from the DB. These guys like Will Clapp, even Will Clapp can play all over the line. He could play left guard, left tackle, right tackle. That's how valuable I would say Will Clapp is, especially considering the contract value. So overall, the Saints have a lot of options here. And there's another option. Speaking of that, the Saints could actually use these 2 first round picks as leverage in a trade for, let's say, for DK Metcalf. For a single argument, let's say DK Metcalf is a guy that the Saints are eyeing to trade for. They could give up one of their first round picks, and not have to pay that fully guaranteed another guy, right? It's possible. Now, I'm not saying, is it going to happen? No, I don't believe at all they're going to trade for DK Metcalf. All right, so don't put words in my mouth. But I'm saying, for a second argument, that could be a thing that's enticing to a team, to a franchise that is trying to rebuild and have stuff and have tools or players that can unload to really help their rebuilding process. The Seattle Seahawks with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, one of those guys could be worth could roll a dice on a first round pick, right? What about, let's say, for sake of argument, what about Brandon Ayuk? Brandon Ayuk from the San Francisco 49ers. He was taken first round. You can give a first round pick back to the Niners and get him. He's versatile. What about for the Giants? Sterling Shepard comes to mind. You can get Sterling Shepard or maybe even Darius Slayton if he's still there. The point I'm making, there are so many types of options that we don't know what the Saints are doing. We don't know what they're doing yet. So all the leverage possible right now, if they're trying to trade, and that's a lot of that. That's what some analysts out there in main football is talking about. This could be a trade. This could be a thing that happens later on or sometime next. It's too early to make your move, right? So we just don't know. We don't know yet. We'll have to figure it. We'll have to just wait and see. But if I'm a betting man, and I'm not, thank you, I will say that the Saints are in position right now, and they're not going to trade any of their picks. I do believe they're not going to trade a single one of their picks because this is the year right now that you need to not only load up for this year, but set yourself up long term in terms of getting more, I would say, cap compliant when you're going into your off seasons. That's one less thing you have to worry about. Another guy here says Velus Jones from Tennessee, Vols wide receiver, Master Podcast. My brother, what is going on? What's going on? Velus Jones, I don't think he's going to be a day 2 guy. I think he's going to slip into the 4th round because he's been like for right now, he's a guy, he's a 1-year wonder. Like, he doesn't have a lot of good tape with Tennessee. Now, a lot of that is due to the fact that Tennessee doesn't have a good QB quarterback situation. And I believe Velus Jones, his wide receiving coach, is now with the Saints. So there's going to be some familiarity there. And before he came to the Saints, he brought out Velus Jones' best year. So if they do decide to go with Velus Jones, then I can see him doing some good things. Whether it be as a number 4 option, a number 5 option, or in special teams with returning punts, returning kicks, something of that nature. Aesop Winston Jr. is doing a pretty okay job at that. We'll just have to wait and see. But Velus Jones wouldn't be a bad thing as a 4th round, maybe the 5th round pick. I can see that. Why did we sign Taco? Well, for 2 reasons. One, because training camp is going to be coming up right around the corner really, really fast, really, really soon. And the Saints need to get a 90-man roster ready for training camp. That's one reason. Another is last year we saw what happened when David Onyemata went down. There was no pass rush whatsoever, and there was no depth behind them. They were signing guys in the middle of the regular season to replace what they've lost due to injury in the defense. And as a result, the Saints had no pass rush because the defensive ends were getting double teamed. Cameron Jordan, Marcus Davenport, tunnel passing. I can keep going. Like, those guys were getting double teamed because commanding attention in the middle of their defensive line. They needed quality. They needed it badly. And when they finally got it, it was too late. They could have used that earlier in the year. They could have used that much earlier in the year. right? And also, David Onyemata is he's in the final year of his current he's an unrestricted free agent as of 2023. So we don't know that yet, but he could be extended. We'll have to. But for right now, it's a 90-day roster thing, and they need depth. They need depth, and it's a 90-day roster for training camp. You can't have too many good defensive tackles. You can't have too much of anything in this league. The more you have, like the deeper you are in every position that you need to run. And the Saints have invested heavily in the defensive line spot for several years now. So the Saints need to stack up. Because the more you have, the more advantageous it'll be, or like later on in a regular season. Because you just don't know what will happen. We cannot be afraid to draft SEC players this year. I agree. I definitely agree. I'm going to say this. I'm high on Pickens. I've seen him play. Dude's a ball hawk, hands, killer, blocking, and his footwork to get open is insane. Reminds me of Chad Johnson in a way. That's some high praise. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against George Pickens. Like I said, I just want him to show that he can stay healthy, right? Like the best ability is availability. You can have the most, you can have the best talent of your fellow peers going into an NFL draft, but it won't matter if you can't stay on the field. You know, Kevin White is a good example of that. Kevin White was projected to be the best receiver of his draft class when the Bears drafted him, and he's look what happened to him recently. He can't stay on the field. Can't stay on the field, and he only caught one pass from the Saints last year, and that was with Trevor Siemian. So I hope he proves me wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong, but I think the Honey Badger might be out of the Saints' price range at safety. I've never been on the hype train for Tyrann Mathieu ever. I think a lot of this hype for Tyrann Mathieu is because many Saints fans are also LSU fans, and I'm not really an LSU fan. I'm a fan of Texas Longhorns. All right, but I do love me some. I do love me some Longhorns, but in all honesty, I've never been a guy that really was really sold on coming to the Saints ever. Like it doesn't look like a thing is going to be a guarantee. I don't deal with like fairy tales or pipe dreams, but if it happens, great. I think Tyrann Mathieu will be a great addition to the Saints. Down does he bring versatility as a safety because he can play both free and strong safety spots. He also brings leadership and a winning pedigree because he's also won a Super Bowl in recent memory, right? So he can definitely help with that. I'm not going to be mad if they bring him in. I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I'm not sold on it. They've been linked to a lot of big names and free. It just hasn't ended up panning out well. You know, Jadeveon Clowney was one. Beckham Jr. was another. You know, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, even though he's trash, even he decided not to come to the Saints because he got a last-second offer from the Kansas City Chiefs. The Saints just aren't a desirable spot right now because there are so many questions with Dennis Allen and what kind of head coach he's going to be this year. A lot of people don't think this, but like it's true. Until Dennis Allen can prove or until Dennis Allen proves that he is a good head coach or he has redeemed himself from his failure at during his time with the Oakland Raiders, the previously Raiders, like that reputation is going to stick with him. Like that criticism is going to stay with him until he changes the narrative for himself. And until that happens, that narrative is going to stick with him, and as such, it's going to be like a mini question marks, and question marks lead to uncertainty, and uncertainties lead to undesirables, as opposed to a Kansas City Chiefs who won a Super Bowl just a few short years ago. So, what are your thoughts on Chad Muma Wiltramal, Malimal Kellep? I have no idea who Chad Muma is. I have no idea who Chad Muma is, but I hope I will get in touch with you on that pretty soon. But if you can let me know who Chad Muma is, I'll do some research on my spare time. I hate everything Texas, maybe because I live here. And I don't live there. I just really love Texas Longhorns. Like I've watched Texas games, Texas college games. Let me be more specific. I don't watch anything on the pro side. I don't watch the Rockets. I don't watch the Texans. I don't watch Cowboys. But I do watch college Texas basketball and college football for the Texas Longhorns. Like they just enamor me. Like they really do. Like Sam Ellinger was a beast when he was in his last year with the Longhorns. And I hope he gets his shot over there with the Colts. He deserves it. He deserves his shot. And Xavier Worthy coming back, man. Look, DA was in a horrible situation in Oakland. I understand that. I understand that he was in a horrible situation in Oakland. I get that, but the fact of the matter is, it's still his narrative. It's still his reputation. That's still on his record. That's still on his resume. No matter the situation, it's still a thing that's a part of his record book until he changes that narrative, until he shows that he's the head coach that he was in Oakland. He has to prove it this year. That's probably why he's being as aggressive as he is right now with this recent trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like he has to change the narrative before any premium free agents look at the Saints again as a place to come. Like at least offensively speaking. I live in Texas. I believe you. Muma is a linebacker for Wyoming. Oh, so he's a Wyoming linebacker, huh? I think that's also where Carl Granderson went to. So I will do some research on Chad Muma. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. But in closing, I love this move for the New Orleans Saints. I really do. Whether they use it to get 2 first-round pick players, 2 premium players to help win right now, or they use it as trade leverage to get another premier guy or premier veteran guy that's still in their prime or whatever, or whatever the case may be, the Saints are not dead. That's all I care about. The Saints are still making moves, and that's all I care about. I wanted them to do something in this free agent in this offseason, and I'm not going to complain now when they do it. I don't know what analysts say about this being a bad trade for the New Orleans Saints. I don't care about that. They have their opinions. I have mine. But I have been so tired of the Saints missing out on key guys or being scared to make any major moves. This is the first major move, legit first major move under the Dennis Allen era, and I'm all for it. They need to do more. They need to hit on this year's draft class, and then they'll most likely be competing for a Super Bowl within the next 2 years, if not this upcoming year. I really absolutely do believe that. Dennis Allen is ready, my belief. I believe you. Barbara, Queen, how you doing? We need to interact more on Twitter, all right? But much love to you. Thank you for stopping by. Janice and Dennis kind of rocking in the same book. Look, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Is there 15 worse teams than the Saints this year? Well, there's Jacksonville, New York Jets, Miami Dolphins. Yes, I'm saying Miami Dolphins. I don't care if Teron Armstead's there. 15 worst teams in the Saints this year. The Panthers, the Seahawks, the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are going to have a downgrade this year because of the recent controversy with Kyler Murray and all them. I really do believe that. What are the bad teams are out there? What other bad teams are out there? The Texans. I would say the Colts, but they got Matt Ryan and they have a roster ready to win right now. So I won't say the Texans. I won't say the Colts. Maybe the Titans. The Titans is a toss-up. The Steelers is definitely one of them. So we're looking at 8 now. The Steelers. What about the Browns? The Browns are probably going to be a downgrade. I don't care if they got Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper. I don't care. I think they're still going to be bad. So that's 10 teams. What about another 5 teams? Let's look at the Broncos. Well, that's 11. Even though they got Russell Wilson, I think they're going to do that much damage. I really don't, because he had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who are better receivers than Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Argue with the wall. Yeah. I said the Falcons already. I said the Falcons and the Jets. I said those two. So we're sitting at 11. I don't think there's 15 teams that are worse off. Oh, the Vikings, the Bears, maybe the Packers. Maybe the Packers. That's a big maybe because they lost Devontae Adams. So we'll have to see about that. One more team I'm missing out on. Who are we missing here, guys? Who are we missing? I'm not going to say the Bucks. They still got Tom Brady. They got Russell Gage and all them. They're missing one team. They're probably number 15 if I'm looking at it. Probably number 15. The Patriots are going to get better. I do believe they're going to get better when Mac Jones entered in the second year. So I'm not going to say the Patriots. Help me out here, guys. Congratulations, Kansas Jayhawk. I think so. Kansas won. Official Young Nola, how you doing? Sorry I'm late, but who do you think we're getting at 16? I think we're going to get a wide receiver first with number 16 because they jumped one spot ahead of the Los Angeles Chargers, who are also in need of a wide receiver. And there's no guarantee the Eagles are going to let you get the guy that you want at number 19, knowing that you are in need of a receiver and they also need receiving help. So I think they're going to get a receiver and with number 16 and an offensive tackle or offensive lineman with number 19. I think you're better at rolling a dice at getting a top premier offensive lineman at number 19 than you are at getting a receiver at 19. Like, I do believe that. I think they're going to draft either Charles Cross and Chris Olave, or maybe Trevor Penning and Traylon Burks. It's going to be a wide receiver offensive lineman duo, and they do decide to maintain their 2 first-round picks. I do believe that. Oh, right. The Commanders. Thank you. The Commanders and the Giants. I forgot about the NFC East. The Commanders. Yeah, so there are 15 worse teams in the NFL than the New Orleans Saints. I do. Yeah, there are teams. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. I do appreciate you. All right. Well, that is going to actually do it for today. I know, like I said, it's going to be short. It is. I'm sorry. I'm still red in the eyes. And I'm still having, connection issues. I had a little bit of a connection technical difficulty before going live, and I'm trying to end it early before my Wi-Fi conked out on me yet again. But thank you guys very much for joining me for this episode of BNG Breakdown Podcast. Make sure you hit up Facebook at facebook.com/BNG Breakdown. Make sure you hit up my Facebook. Please. I'm getting traction over there. I want to hit close to 1,000 by the end of this year. We are on track to do that. So please hit up my Facebook page and hit that follow button, hit that like button. Also follow me on my Instagram. Hit me up on my Twitter. All those social media handles are down in the description below. As everyone to donate, my Cash App is also down in the description below. All donations are set aside to help improve my platform as a whole. That donation money is separate from my personal money. I say that because I want you guys to have full transparency of what that money is going to be used for. With that being said, we are going to get up out of here. Thank you, New Orleans Saints, for actually doing something before the start of the draft because you were making me nervous. I'll see you guys next time for another head-breaking Saints news story. I don't know when that is. That depends on the Saints and what they want to give us. Until next time, and as always, if you guys don't know, you will know. It's over here. We bleed black and gold until we are dead. Yeah. Dead and cold. I'll check you guys out next time.